Grandma, why do you always smell strange? Mom says it's just your scent. This seemingly innocent question, uttered by her beloved granddaughter, shattered 70-year-old Helen Turner's world. All her life, she had maintained a meticulous, impeccably clean lifestyle, but these words made her feel as though all her efforts were in vain. The child who once happily sat on her lap now wrinkled her nose slightly when asked for a hug. That night, Helen pulled the covers over her head, weeping silently for hours, deeply shaken. This distinct aroma, sometimes noticed in older individuals, has nothing to do with poor hygiene or neglect. Its roots lie in biological processes, subtle changes in skin chemistry, and several body areas that often go unnoticed during routine hygiene. However, there's good news. Once these forgotten spots are identified, the solution becomes surprisingly simple and accessible. In this article, we will thoroughly examine 6 specific body zones that are most often the source of this so-called age-related body odor. We will demonstrate how a small but targeted increase in attention to these areas can eliminate up to 99% of this particular scent. Each section will clearly show how deeply the feeling of freshness and cleanliness depends on the behind-the-scenes processes within our bodies. Readers will discover why some individuals, despite regular washing, still seem to have a unique scent, and how even minor adjustments to their daily routine can drastically change their self-perception and how others perceive them. This isn't about expensive cosmetic products or aggressive skin scrubbing. The essence lies in knowledge, a deep understanding of one's own body and the skillful application of that knowledge to feel truly clean, confident, and completely in control. If you've ever felt awkward, wanted to avoid hugs, or worried about how you appear in social interactions, this information can lift that burden. Let's begin our exploration.
Area 1. Behind the ear.
One of the most frequently overlooked areas during daily hygiene routines is the space directly behind the ears. This small area is barely visible in a mirror, which is precisely why it often goes unnoticed. However, most people don't realize that this zone is exceptionally rich in sebaceous glands, microscopic structures that produce skin oil, and whose activity significantly increases with age. As the body ages, our skin begins to produce a particular type of oil. When this oil mixes with sweat and dead skin cells, it forms a specific substance. If this mixture remains untouched behind the ears, it becomes a source of a stale, sometimes even musty odor that can linger long after showering. Consider the story of Walter, a 79-year-old gentleman who always took meticulous care of himself, showered regularly, and consistently used cologne. Nevertheless, his granddaughter once delicately mentioned that he had a slightly strange scent when she hugged him. Initially, Walter was embarrassed, as he had always prided himself on his cleanliness. However, with cautious curiosity, he began to analyze his hygiene routine and realized he never truly washed the area behind his ears. Just a few seconds of daily attention using a soft cloth and warm water yielded such a noticeable result that even Walter himself was astonished. The subtle, unpleasant odor disappeared, and his self-confidence returned almost instantly. This type of scent isn't a result of poor hygiene, it's often the outcome of incomplete hygiene. The skin behind the ears has slight folds that can trap skin oil. If a person wears glasses, the effect is amplified as the frames press against the skin, holding these deposits. Cleaning requires no significant effort, just consistency. A quick wipe with a warm, damp cloth during morning or evening hygiene can significantly reduce oil buildup. Using a mild, non-drying cleanser 1 or 2 times a week helps maintain cleanliness in this area without causing skin irritation. There's also a psychological aspect. Many older adults associate cleaning behind their ears with childhood, when parents constantly reminded them, "Wash behind your ears." Somewhere along life's journey, this habit gradually fades, giving way to quicker showers and fewer mirror checks. However, as insignificant as this area may seem, it holds far more importance than most people realize. Aromas originating in this zone have a tendency to spread upward, reaching the scalp, and downward, settling on clothing collars. This subtly but noticeably affects how others perceive a person's presence, even if they never voice their observations. If you've ever been puzzled by persistent odors despite diligent hygiene, this area might be the missing link in understanding the problem. This isn't about excessive scrubbing or using harsh products, but rather about awareness and mindfulness. When you redirect attention to those small body parts that years have taught you to ignore, you simultaneously reclaim a sense of freshness that will be perceived by others, even if they can't pinpoint the reason. As a result, you'll feel better, lighter, and more comfortable in your own skin. Sometimes, the The solution truly is as simple as returning to the most basic principles of care. Area 2. The nape of the neck. Quietly hidden beneath the hairline and often obscured by clothing collars, scarves, or long strands of hair, the nape of the neck is one of the most frequently overlooked spots in daily hygiene. Yet, it is also one of the most underestimated sources of distinct body odor in older individuals. This zone serves as a crossroads where sweat glands are active, hair oil accumulates, and dead skin cells settle. All these elements can quickly build up without creating visible mess, making the problem particularly insidious. Often, there's no obvious dirt, no clear signs that anything is amiss. However, if this small patch of skin remains uncleansed, it transforms into a silent source of what some refer to as age-related scent. Take 76-year-old Ruth, for example, who was always exceptionally neat. Her outfits were impeccably ironed, her hair always well-groomed, and she never skipped her daily shower. However, on warm days, especially after outdoor walks or time in the sun, Ruth began to detect an indefinable aroma, something sour or reminiscent of sweat. Remarkably, this occurred even when she had just changed into fresh clothes. After some careful reflection, she realized she hadn't been paying enough attention to washing the nape of her neck, especially at the end of a long day. It was only when her hairdresser mentioned a small buildup on her neck that Ruth decided to take notice. A simple change in her showering routine resolved this mystery within a few days. The nape of the neck actively traps sweat, particularly in hot weather or under layers of clothing. If a person has long hair or a hairstyle that touches the collar, natural oils from the scalp drain downward and collect at the base of the neck. Add to this the pressure and warmth from shirt collars or jacket hoods, and you have ideal conditions for active bacterial growth. It is these bacteria, not the sweat itself, that produce the unpleasant odor. What happens when sweat remains in a warm, enclosed environment for too long? Most people meticulously wash their face and hair but skip this small area of skin in between. Over time, it becomes a zone of active accumulation of impurities and a source of odor. And because this area is so close to the head and shoulders, its condition can significantly influence how others perceive a person's cleanliness, especially in social situations like hugging or sitting nearby. The nape of the neck is often where people's noses go during hugs, and it's an area where heat tends to rise when a person is in a warm room. This is why even the most fastidious individual can emit an unintentional odor if this small area remains neglected. Washing the nape of the neck is not difficult. A warm washcloth and a few extra seconds during a shower are all it takes. Be sure to gently scrub this area, especially after sweating, and pay attention to how your skin feels afterward. It should be soft, clean, and free from the slightly sticky residue that indicates old skin oil. If you use cologne or lotion, apply it to this spot only after it has been thoroughly cleansed. This will help the fragrance develop better and last longer, without mixing with old residues. Beyond practical reasons, there's something emotionally significant about paying attention to these small details. It serves as a reminder that you still care for yourself with intention, that your body deserves the same respect now as it did decades ago. It affirms that your presence, how you feel, how you smell, how you move, still matters in the spaces you share with others. When you care for these quiet corners of your body, you also nurture the dignity and pride that accompany you every day. Area 3. Under the breasts or in skin folds. There are body zones that are often unspoken, yet their impact on the formation of specific body odor, especially in older age, cannot be overstated. With years, skin loses its former elasticity, becoming softer and more prone to forming folds and sagging. Whether it's the area under the breasts, around the abdomen, beneath the buttocks, or any other place where skin touches skin, these hidden folds create an ideal environment for the accumulation of heat, moisture, and active bacterial growth. Once this process begins, a strong and quite unpleasant odor develops rather quickly, often going unnoticed by the individual themselves. Patricia, 72, was always a model of neatness. Her home sparkled, she dressed with unfailing elegance, and she prided herself on her impeccable appearance. However, during the summer months, especially on hot days, she began to experience an inexplicable feeling of awkwardness. In the evenings, even after her morning shower, she detected a faint, sour smell. Patricia tried changing detergents, experimented with various deodorants, and even bought new clothes, but nothing yielded the desired result. The situation only changed after a nurse at her wellness clinic advised her to thoroughly clean and dry the areas under her breasts and along her waist daily. Within 1 week, the unpleasant odor completely disappeared. Many people don't realize that these zones can remain damp for several hours even after showering. This lingering moisture, especially in warm weather or under multiple layers of clothing, creates ideal conditions for the active growth of bacteria and fungi. The core of the problem isn't dirt itself, but the specific climate of these areas. These secluded body zones are warm, dark, and often compressed, allowing sweat and natural skin oils to ferment, transforming into odor-causing compounds. And because they are rarely exposed to air or sunlight, they very seldom dry naturally. There's also a certain discomfort associated with discussing this topic. For some, these areas seem too personal or even embarrassing for open conversation. However, ignoring the problem doesn't make it disappear, it only exacerbates the situation. As the skin in these zones becomes more delicate and sensitive with age, irritation and odor can significantly intensify. Redness, itching, or a burning sensation can be signs that the skin is being damaged by pressure and moisture. Without timely treatment, this can lead to the development of painful rashes or infections, making even the simplest movements uncomfortable. However, there's good news. Even a small change in your daily hygiene routine can yield tremendous results. After showering, take a soft towel and gently pat dry under any skin folds, paying special attention to areas under the breasts, abdomen, or other places where increased perspiration occurs. You might consider using a gentle, unscented powder or moisture-wicking fabric to help reduce dampness throughout the day. Some people even use cotton pads or breathable fabric liners to keep these areas dry and odor-free. It's important to ensure that the products used are not too harsh or heavily scented, as this can cause irritation over time. Beyond physical comfort, it's also about emotional peace of mind. When you know you smell clean, you carry yourself differently, you readily lean in for hugs, you feel confident putting on fresh clothes or spending time with others, without wondering, does anyone else smell that? You hold yourself with confidence because you've taken care of the small but important details. And these small details truly matter, especially when they help you feel your best again. An odor that seems mysterious or persistent often stems from one of these hidden folds. But once you know where to look and how to properly care for these areas, the situation changes dramatically. It's not about feeling ashamed, but about staying informed and confident, understanding that your own comfort and self-respect are worth a few extra minutes of care each day. Area 4. Scalp and hairline. The scalp is one of the most frequently overlooked sources of specific odor as we age. The reason for this isn't that people forget to wash their hair, but rather that they often don't pay enough attention to cleansing the scalp itself. Many older individuals continue to follow the same hair washing routine they learned in their youth: a quick shampoo application, perhaps a rinse, and that's it. However, the truth is that the scalp is not just a platform for hair growth. It's living skin that daily produces sebum, sheds dead cells, and absorbs particles from the environment. And when these substances accumulate, they don't just remain unnoticed, they begin to emit a distinct odor. Consider the example of 68-year-old Howard, who always considered himself a well-groomed man. He combed his hair neatly, got regular haircuts, and never missed a shower. However, he began to notice a faint sour or greasy smell emanating from his head, especially in the warm afternoons or after wearing a hat. At first, he thought his shampoo was the cause. But after a visit to his barber, he learned that he wasn't actually scrubbing his scalp, but merely washing the hair growing on it. Once he started using his fingertips to gently massage and cleanse his scalp with each wash, the difference was immediate. The odor disappeared, and even his hair seemed lighter and healthier. As we age, the scalp tends to produce more sebum, a natural oil that helps keep the skin moisturized. But when it's not properly removed, this oil mixes with sweat, styling product residue, and dead skin cells, creating a distinct odor that no amount of perfume or hairspray can mask. Add to this the effects of medications, possibly reduced circulation, and less intense sweating compared to younger years, and the scalp becomes a quiet reservoir for odors that slowly but surely spread outward. The hairline, especially around the temples and the nape of the neck, is where this effect becomes most noticeable. Headwear, wigs, or scarves can trap heat and prevent air circulation, turning the scalp into a kind of miniature greenhouse. Even thinning hair, which exposes more of the scalp to the air, can make odors more perceptible. The individual themselves may not notice it, but those around them, approaching during a haircut, a hug, or even a handshake, might detect something unusual. And because it's such a delicate issue, people rarely say anything, they simply quietly withdraw or try to keep their distance. Effective scalp cleansing doesn't require harsh shampoos or complex deep treatments. All that's needed is time, moderate pressure, and mindfulness. Use your fingertips, avoiding nails, to massage the scalp in small circular motions, paying special attention to the base of the skull, the crown, and the area behind the ears. Rinse thoroughly and ensure no shampoo or conditioner residue remains, as this can also contribute to odor. If styling products are used, it's essential to wash them out regularly, as their buildup is a primary source of scalp-related odor. And don't underestimate the impact this has on a person's overall perception. A clean, healthy scalp not only smells better, it changes how hair moves, how skin feels, and how a person carries themselves. People respond to freshness, even when they can't precisely define it. You feel more comfortable, more present, and more at ease when you know nothing is lingering around you. It's a quiet confidence that comes from doing something simply for yourself. Area 5. The navel. It might seem surprising, but the navel is one of the most common places where odor subtly accumulates, yet it's also one of the most forgotten areas in daily hygiene. Located at the center of the body, the navel is a small, enclosed space where sweat, dead skin, lint from clothing, and bacteria collect, creating a kind of hidden pocket that few people think to clean. Over time, these accumulations don't just stay there, they begin to ferment. The result is an odor that many older individuals mistakenly attribute to general body odor emanating from other areas, never realizing its source is right in the middle of their own torso. Charles, 74, began to notice a persistent odor that seemed to follow him throughout the day, regardless of how often he showered or changed his clothes. This puzzled him because he was meticulous about hygiene, even using antibacterial soap. But it wasn't until his wife asked if he had recently cleaned his navel that he realized he hadn't touched it in years. With the help of a soft cotton swab and warm water, he began to incorporate his navel into his routine, and within a few days, the mysterious odor that had bothered him for months simply vanished. The navel, especially if it's deeper or slightly inverted, acts like a small cave. Moisture easily gets trapped there, particularly in warm weather or after sweating. If a person has a more rounded abdomen or if their pant waistband fits snugly around their waist, this area can remain damp for hours, unnoticed by them. It doesn't take much, just a few skipped cleanings, and the natural bacteria living on the skin begin to multiply actively, feeding on the debris inside the navel and producing odor. What makes the navel particularly insidious is that it doesn't always appear dirty. You don't see grime, you don't feel discomfort. And because it's a small enclosed space, the odor can rise slowly and subtly. Some people even mistake it for armpit odor or believe their shirts retain a smell, when in fact, it's coming from this tiny central point on their body. And because few people talk about it, many simply never think to check this spot. Cleaning the navel is simple but should be done gently. During a shower, use a soft washcloth or a fingertip with mild soap and warm water. Gently cleanse the navel, without pressing or scrubbing too hard. If the navel hasn't been cleaned in a long time, you might notice dark particles or even waxy deposits. This is completely normal and nothing to be ashamed of. After rinsing, pat the area dry with a soft towel, ensuring no moisture remains. If you are prone to sweating, you can use a small amount of alcohol-free toner or a cotton swab dipped in warm water to maintain cleanliness between showers. Incorporating this small habit into your daily routine is far more significant than most people realize. The navel is central not only physically but also in how others perceive a person's scent. It is in close proximity to clothing, hands, and even the waist during conversations or meals. A clean navel symbolizes a cleaner person, which in turn affects how others feel around you and how you feel in your own skin. It's a small gesture that yields significant results, especially when you realize how something so simple can eliminate so much doubt and discomfort from daily life. Area 6. Groin and inner thighs. Among the most common yet least discussed sources of persistent body odor in older adults is the groin area, including the inner thighs. This part of the body naturally generates more heat, moisture, and friction than almost any other region. Such conditions create an ideal environment for the active proliferation of odor-causing bacteria. And because this zone is so closely linked to privacy, it is often the last area people feel comfortable discussing, even with themselves. However, if you've ever noticed a persistent odor that doesn't disappear even after a bath, or if your underwear seems to retain a smell, regardless of how often it's washed, this area may be the starting point for solving the problem. Consider Leonard, 81, a retired firefighter who prided himself on staying active and clean. He took morning walks every day, showered daily, and always put on fresh clothes. But in the evenings, he began to notice a musky smell that he couldn't quite pinpoint. His doctor, after ruling out infections, suggested he pay extra attention to the skin folds around his groin and thighs. Leonard admitted that while he did wash the area, he often did so in a hurry. He began to take a little more time, using mild soap, drying thoroughly, and occasionally applying a moisture-wicking powder. The result was immediate. Not only did the odor disappear, but he also felt fresher and more comfortable throughout the day. This part of the body is naturally rich in sweat glands. As we age, skin becomes softer and may sag slightly, increasing the number of folds where moisture can get trapped. Add to this tight clothing, synthetic underwear, or prolonged periods of sitting, and the skin doesn't get a chance to breathe. What starts as simple dampness quickly turns into irritation, odor, and sometimes even infection if left unaddressed. The groin area is also in close proximity to the digestive and urinary systems, which adds even more potential for subtle but persistent odor issues. One of the key problems with this area is friction. When the inner thighs rub against each other during walking, especially in warm weather or with less supportive underwear, the skin can become damaged, making it more vulnerable to bacteria. The same friction makes it difficult for the area to dry completely, especially if a person is in a hurry. And because it's an intimate zone, most people simply don't talk about it, leading many to think they are alone in dealing with this issue. But they are not. It's far more common than people realize, and much easier to manage once you know how. The solution does not involve aggressive products or invasive steps. It begins with using mild, unscented soap and warm water to gently wash the entire area, including the folds where the thighs meet the pelvis. After rinsing, it is crucial to dry thoroughly. A clean, soft towel should be used to gently pat, being careful not to rub or irritate the skin. For those prone to sweating, applying a gentle talc-free powder can help absorb moisture throughout the day. Choosing breathable cotton underwear and changing it daily, or more often in warm weather, also helps reduce buildup and keeps the area fresh. There is dignity in knowing your body is cared for. The groin and inner thighs may seem like private territory, but they play a very public role in how you feel and how others interact with you. When this area is clean and comfortable, your movements are smoother, your clothes feel fresher, and you carry yourself with a quiet confidence that others pick up on, even if they can't quite name it. This isn't just hygiene, it's self-respect. It's an affirmation of the right to feel confident in your own skin at any age. Final thoughts. In closing, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect on what we've just learned. Which of these 6 areas surprised you the most? Was there one that made you think, I haven't cleaned that spot in years, or perhaps one you've struggled with without understanding the true cause? Each area we've explored today touches on more than just physical cleanliness. It's about rediscovered comfort, restored confidence, and reclaiming a sense of freshness that rightfully belongs to everyone, regardless of age. When you begin to pay a little more attention to those body parts that often go unnoticed, you gain a deeper sense of presence within your own body, and that feeling holds incredible power. Too often, older individuals harbor unspoken fears about their scent, worrying about how others might perceive them, or about the presence of some elusive aroma whose source they don't know. Such thoughts can exert significant psychological pressure, especially when they remain unexpressed and unresolved. However, today marks an important step not only towards improving hygiene practices, but also towards achieving true peace of mind. It is the precise understanding of where the source of the odor lies that empowers you to effectively eliminate it. Such knowledge returns full control over your self-perception in the world around you, within your home, and in interactions with loved ones. The essence lies not in striving for unattainable perfection, but in cultivating deep self-awareness. This is a call to break the silence around a topic many prefer to avoid, and to do so with dignity, genuine warmth, and unwavering truth. When you care for yourself in these subtle yet thoughtful ways, you're not just preventing unpleasant odors. You're showing yourself the respect you undoubtedly deserve, having lived a full, rich life. Everyone has earned the right to feel clean, comfortable, and completely at ease every day of their lives.